evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. The top down, your foot on the gas, the wind in your hair. Driving is American as, well, nothing actually is more American than driving. It's our birthright. It's both a joy and a necessity when your country spans a continent. But is it about to end abruptly? Driverless cars are coming, maybe sooner than we think they are. And what are the ramifications exactly? And by the way, what happens to the millions of Americans who drive cars and trucks for a living? There are at least 4 million of them. Joining us now is one of the foremost experts on this subject, Hod Lipson. He's a roboticist, a mechanical engineering professor at Columbia in New York, and the author of Driverless, Intelligent Cars and the Road Ahead. Hod, thanks a lot for coming on. I appreciate it. I think
my pleasure.
This is a really interesting topic and a cool topic, and driverless cars are a marvel, I think. But I think anyone who ponders it for a minute starts to feel concerned for the millions of Americans who drive for a living. And so what will happen to them?
Well, I think there's you have to look at the big picture and realize that what we're about to experience is a transformation to transportation as a whole. So we're going to have a lot more cars being driven, a lot more traffic, and a lot more production of cars. Also, the industry as a whole is going to grow in a big way. We're going to have a lot more car manufacturing, a lot more mechanics jobs, a lot more jobs for maintenance of roads. So overall, we're going to see, I think, an expansion. But it's true that some jobs are probably going to go away, not completely, and driving is one of them, for sure.
Well, so that's not a small thing, though. I mean, this is not buggy whip manufacturing. According to the census, driving commercially, either delivery or trucks, is the single most common job in the majority of states. I think 29 out of 50 states. It's number one, and it's number two in a bunch of others. So this is a huge disruption of a massive part of the labor force. And I know you've thought a lot about the technology behind this. Who's thinking about what happens to those people? What exactly are they going to do you think?
Well, you know, I agree with you. And part of the reason we wrote this book was to sort of get people to start thinking about driverless cars in a big way, to understand the ripple effect of this technology. It's not just technology itself. It's not just about to replace cab drivers. It's really it has a ripple effect on the economy from lots of jobs, but also growth in many sectors of the job. So I think what's going to happen is that many of these drivers will have to start looking for other jobs. But unlike other transformations that involve the growth in, let's say, software industry at the expense of other industries, what we're going to see here is expansion of the entire industry. We're going to see a lot of more jobs in factories, in manufacturing cars, in taking care of roads and so forth. So I think overall it's going to be a net benefit, but there's going to be some adjustments to be made.
Well, I mean, there are going to be massive adjustments, and I guess that's my concern. So a lot of people are thinking about this. A lot of for-profit companies are involved. The government is subsidizing it, as you know, both directly and in road maintenance. And the main point is, of course, to save on labor costs, because that's a huge part of the cost for a lot of these businesses. This is very much a market-driven idea. Who is sitting and thinking seriously about what these people are going to do? Or is it a kind of a faith-based assumption that they'll be fine and that other parts of the economy will expand and they'll be taken up there? I mean, is there anyone who's really plotting this out? Because it's happening soon, as you've pointed out.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has actually plotted out the precise path, but the assumption is, and I think it's going to happen, is that we're going to see overall growth in the economy because of this. So it's a little bit like what the internet did for communication. What driverless cars are going to do for transportation is really expand the entire economy, allow a lot of new opportunities, new kinds of businesses that we enabled, and again, new kinds of manufacturing jobs. So overall, it's going to be an expansion. But I agree. I share your concern.
Well, it might actually do what the internet did for bookstores, which just destroy them forever. And, there's an upside, of course, also. The problem is, it's not just any 4 million people, and that's at the very low end, because there are lots of ancillary businesses attached to driving, as you well know. But it's high school educated men in rural areas. So if you look at the states where driving is the biggest occupation, they tend to be far from our economic centers. So there are already places with high unemployment, especially among men. Women work at the schools, the hospitals, but the men don't have a lot of full-time work other than driving. And that causes massive social dislocation. You wind up with a lot of people on disability, a lot of people on unemployment. I mean, there are going to be social ramifications. Again, I just ask you the same question a third time. Who's thinking about that?
Yeah, so right now I don't have a good answer, and again, this is why we wrote the book, is to sort of basically highlight this issue. It's coming sooner than you think. It's coming.
Right.
It's going to happen in the next decade, and it's something that we have to start thinking about. What happens with these jobs, but also I want to point out all the other things. The thousands of lives that are going to be saved, and again, the new economy that's going to grow out of it, and my hope is that a lot of these drivers will find jobs that are suitable for them in these other sectors of the industry that will grow. And again, it's not just growth in the software industry where it's difficult to see how these drivers will find employment. These are growth in other industrial manufacturing sectors that I think can absorb these drivers with their skills.
Well, God bless you for not telling me that they're all going to become software coders, which is the normal response from the tech community, and it's infuriatingly stupid. Thank you for acknowledging reality here. So 2 questions. So the government's subsidizing this. Why? Why would the government be subsidizing what is obviously a job killer? And 2, why is this inevitable exactly? I mean, the tech companies don't own the roads. The public does. And the government could shut this down tomorrow. DOT could say no. And why shouldn't they if there's a massive social cost attached? And we don't know the consequences. You've conceded that.
Right. I think it would be a bad move to shut it down, because it will happen in the rest of the world. I can tell you, I get phone calls all the time from analysts from other countries saying, what can we do to get this whole energy around driverless car to happen in our country? What does our DOT need to do to allow autonomous driving to develop in our country? So right now, it's all happening in the U.S. It's a wonderful thing because we'll be able to sort of spearhead this thing. Just like the internet happened here first, it created a transformation to the entire planet. But a lot of the big companies in this area are all here, and I think we want the same thing to happen in the U.S. when it comes to driverless cars. We want the first driverless cars to appear here. We want to have the big businesses around us evolve here, and we want to sort of lead the world in this area. So if we don't do it, somebody else will do it.
Maybe not, but you can pardon my skepticism when it seems like all the benefits go to well-educated, affluent, urban elites like me, and probably you, who don't want to drive anyway, we live in cities, and kind of shafts the middle of the country, and that the pretext for this is safety, as it often is. Highway safety deaths are at the lowest point in 100 years. I mean, I graduated from high school in 1987. They were twice what they are today. We don't have driverless cars yet. The numbers are going down. So to say this is all about safety when it's really about saving businesses on labor costs, a little insulting, no?
No, I think, first of all, last year the car fatalities went up by 8% because of distracted driving, and I think this will continue to go up. We have 30,000 people fatalities a year in the U.S. That's a huge number. That's just fatalities, not counting people who can't think or walk after a car accident. So safety for sure is a good reason. But again, I'm pretty sure that the economy will grow once we have this transformation. We'll have new business models, we'll have decongested cities, we'll have a lot of people spend enormous amount of time commuting to work and back.
Right.
All that time could be saved. They can rest and maybe spend more time with the family when they come home instead of being exhausted. I mean, the benefits are tremendous. Now, it's true.
Yeah, they might be. Wouldn't you also concede that, like,
people,
when jobs leave your town, the death rate goes up from OxyContin ODs and cirrhosis and obesity and all the kinds of slow forms of suicide that accompany mass unemployment. So, like, that's not a concern too?
No, it is a concern, and I think the bigger picture is what we're seeing is that artificial intelligence, automation, robotics is sort of taking away jobs in a more general pattern, not just in driving, but in factories. Yeah. And we'll see that happening more and more. So the bigger question is, what do we do balancing automation, artificial intelligence, which increase productivity per se? How do we balance that with job loss? And that's a very important question, and that's a question that we need to look at from a sort of economics point of view.
You think? Because nobody, I can tell you this, that nobody in my world cares at all. And God bless you for at least raising the question, because nobody in rich person world has given it a single thought, and they really ought to.
This is a very important question.
Yeah,
and I'm glad we're talking about it.
Amen. We're out of time, unfortunately. Thanks a lot for coming on.